Hey, welcome.
Hey, so this is episode number 2 of Good Times with Ryan and Alex. And the first episode, we just kind of got into some stuff about how we met and how some of the things we got into when we first started hanging out. But Ryan and I have a very long history of automobiles, trips, and us both being in the same automobile when something weird happened or we were going somewhere and something happened, and it always had something to do with Ryan trying to live up to the legend that was his father, because he no matter what Ryan did, he had to do it fast. So, and he would just tell everybody that it was in the blood because his dad was a NASCAR driver. So he would eat his cereal fast. He would run fast. He would walk fast. He would try to sleep fast. He would do everything fast because it was in the blood.
Right.
Ryan, what do you have to say about that?
I did drive a little fast. It was you would say reckless these days. little too fast, and I would just be like, it's in the blood because my dad was he actually was in Winston Weston a couple of NASCAR races.
Your dad was good.
Winston Cup, which was what Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon were in. A couple of actual races there. One was a Brickyard. He actually was trying to qualify and got in a wreck and kind of had to step back from that because he had to go to the hospital, kind of scared everybody.
Your mom was very upset about that.
Right. And before that, he was in a race called Sears Point, which I think it's Infineon, and I think it's changed names a few times. But he actually stayed out when everybody went in and led a lap. And if you look at the record...
I remember that.
Yeah. If you actually look up NASCAR records and look up Robert Sprague, you'll see he's in the records books for laps led. He led more laps that season than Richard Petty.
That's insane. So your dad, the greatest story your dad ever told me, because I used to come visit you. Do you remember when I would just come in and sit with your family in the living room and just talk to you guys?
Vaguely, yeah. And you would just start talking. Yeah.
I would just start talking. So I remember your dad telling me the story about when he was using the urinal and Dale Earnhardt was right next to him. And I was just like, well, what'd you say? What did you say to him? And your dad's like, I didn't say nothing to him. I was going to the bathroom. I just thought that was the greatest thing ever. It's like, oh, in walks the freaking Intimidator. Like, here he comes. Here comes the greatest NASCAR driver of all time. Like, that's the craziest way to meet somebody that you idolize or whatever.
For sure. Yeah, he was my star until he passed. That was pretty tough, but
yeah, that was what a heroic way to go out though. Like blocking for his son and his driver Michael Waltrip just to do that, and he also finished the race. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen. That's literally like Michael Jordan passing away on a basketball court. I just thought that was the craziest thing ever. I was really worried that Ryan Newman wasn't going to be okay after that race that just happened at Daytona when he got in the wreck. That was horrible.
Yeah, just recently. Yeah, that was pretty.
Yes.
All that fire going through there. Whoa.
Well, when the rear end of the car was like, it looked white hot. Like the flames looked white.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about that? In a weird way, Dale's death actually led to Ryan living because of all the safety equipment advances that they made. If you think about it in that context, had he not have had the equipment that they had updated, he might have died for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's just a weird way. It came full circle 20 years later. It's weird.
Yeah.
But hey, tell me. So go ahead and let's do something a little less serious. Tell the people about when you decided that we were going to get to Eugene and you wanted to get there real fast.
Okay, so I'm just like, hey, Alex, I got this crazy idea. Let's go to Canada tonight. And you're like, okay, let's do it. Let's go to Canada. What is that?
Like,
16 hours?
Yes, and wasn't it like 8 o'clock at night when you decided you wanted to do that?
No, it was like at 5, but at 8 is when we left because we went by McKinsey. We see who we could grab.
Oh yeah,
and everyone's like, no, that's crazy, which it was.
Yes,
but it turned into a trip to Eugene, which we'll get to why later. But yeah, the plan was to go to Canada, which is like what 8 hour? No, it's more than 8. It's like 10 hours away.
Well, it's like to get to Washington, it probably from Coos Bay.
4 hours.
4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And then to get to Canada, like you're going to British Columbia or wherever, Vancouver, that's another like 3 hours. And then not to mention, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go by, it was just like, talk to me. Hey, Mackenzie, you want to go? And he's like, no. you guys are nuts. So we get on there and, I'm trying to make good time. Just trying to make good time.
To say the least.
Yeah, well, it was probably the fastest I've driven ever. but like, it wasn't a sports car. It was just like an SUV.
It was limited, though. It was limited.
Okay, it was a limited. I don't know if they have any extra power or not, but
we were getting there. We were getting there in style, regardless.
Yeah, so we were going pretty fast. You want to fill in where we're?
I just remember, you know how they say white knuckle driving. Like I was white knuckle riding. I was literally in fear for my life the entire time. And I don't know if I've ever had my heart rate up higher than that drive. Seriously, I literally, if you had a heart rate monitor on me, I would have it would have been beating faster than if I had just run a race. Sorry, I keep sneezing. I apologize.
Yeah. So and once we reached the freeway, it was pretty much like you just hit it to where the rev limiter or the speed limiter is on the vehicle, and I just had the pedal down, and but before that, there's a bunch of curves and turns. It's through the Cascades, so it's up in hills, and there's. I can imagine it being pretty scary for a passenger. For me, I was like, "Yeah!"
Well, it was night. It was nighttime. We're going through Drain and Elkton, which are like smaller towns than Mayberry. So it's amazing that there weren't speed traps set up, to be honest with you, because I mean, we were literally going fast enough to, we're going faster than 88 miles per hour. So if we're in the DeLorean, we're going to the future. Like we're going like 90. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was reckless. I mean, a deer could have popped out. Lots of stuff could have happened. It was
I remember. So we're literally, you got to Eugene, which normally takes 2 hours, maybe a little over 2 hours. You got there in like an hour 20, and
an hour and a half, hour 20. Yeah.
Yeah. As you're on the outskirts.
That's 112 miles about in 90 minutes. I don't know. I didn't calculate how fast that was on average, but there's a lot of, it's 55 until you hit the freeway, which the freeway is only the last 20 minutes normally.
Why are you even mentioning the speed limit when you clearly didn't obey it? Why does it even matter?
So they know it's not 80 all the way through. I was like, yeah, whatever. It's an 80-mile speed limit all the way through. Who cares?
Well, the speed limit was clearly marked 55. So here I am with Alex, going 95, and
because I can't drive 55.
Yeah, you couldn't even. You were going so fast, you couldn't even. There's no way you were reading. You could even read the speed. Come on, you couldn't see those marks. Come on.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Pretty much. Sports Network. Sports Network doing the NASCAR.
Yeah, you're like you got the worst ticket at the whole speedway, and all you see is.
Yeah, it was insane. But so we were on the freeway, and I was just maxed out. And eventually, something happened to the car. It just goes. I'm like, crap! I got to slow down. So we just slowed down. I was taking it easy, so I didn't break it more, and we wouldn't be stranded. And we went into Denny's.
The same Denny's where Jack Nicholson filmed a movie at. By the way,
what?
100%. Yes,
I didn't hear about this.
They filmed a scene for one of his movies in the 70s in that Denny's for sure.
In Eugene, there.
Yes. They filmed the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in Salem, and I'm not sure if this is the same movie, but he filmed 2 movies in Oregon. They also filmed parts of The Shining in Oregon too.
Wow!
So he's filmed in Oregon at least 3 different times.
Yeah. Well, we were eating there, and
so we're going 100. Now we're ordering breakfast. All right, go Ryan. My stomach is upside down in my throat at this point.
Well,
Ryan's not even worried about it. He's ordering eggs over my hammy. He's not even worried at all.
No, well, we saw someone, like, just some random person in there. I'm like, hey, my car's really not working. I don't know what to do. And he's like, oh, you just lift the hood up and let it cool down a bit. So we lifted the hood up and went into 8.
Oh, my God. You're like, listen, the only thing that can cure this problem right now is a sausage link.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So we, needless to say, we decided to go back.
Listen, I'll never forget the phone call. I'm standing right next to you as you call your grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, hey, Grandpa Larry, so Alex and I are in Eugene, and it's literally like 11 o'clock at night, and your grandpa's like, what?
He didn't do that. He's just like, what's up?
And he's like, no.
He's totally nonchalant about it.
He told you, like, turn around. Yeah. He was like, no, the governor, because it was the governor, wasn't it?
I think it might have been the transmission, but
whatever it wasn't good. And your grandpa's like, all right, let it rest, and you guys you need to go back home.
I thought it was a random customer.
No.
Dude, you have a better memory than I do.
No, it was for sure your grandpa. 100%, because you were afraid to call your parents. Because if you would have called you would have talked to your dad about this. That would have been curtains for us.
You cannot hang out with Alex anymore.
Yeah, even though listen,
even though it's totally me.
Yeah, right. My son came up with this idea and executed the entire ridiculous plan. But since Alex was riding shotgun for it, like a good buddy. I was the only one who had guts enough to do this thing. I was the only one, and I would have been punished for it. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So I was milking it back, and I didn't tell you this, but I was really tired, and so I was like trying to like keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
And we pulled over and stopped and took a nap because I was like, I don't know if I can make it. Like I was seeing like black things on the road because my eyes were.
And we were going to go to Canada that night too.
Yeah,
by the way,
yeah.
you couldn't even make it 4 hours, but we're going another like 8 hours on top of the 4. Woo, boy.
Yeah,
Ryan, I don't know if I like that idea, man. So I do remember getting back home, and it was like 7 o'clock. It was early, like maybe 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
It was light out, yeah.
And I just remember thinking, like, all right, the whole situation just sucked. But this is the first time I've been up early enough to have McDonald's breakfast. So
you loving that McDonald's?
Yeah, I'm going to McDonald's breakfast. My whole life as a teenager revolved around how can I get McDonald's, and like why aren't we eating McDonald's? If I didn't have McDonald's, how can I get it? And if we were at McDonald's, how can I get McDonald's again? Like seriously, girls and McDonald's were the only thing I cared about.
Well, you also cared about having a good time and going to Canada, obviously.
What about the time that you really wanted to get ice cream, and there was this diner that was probably like 30, 45 minutes from our hometown. And Ryan and I, of course, are like, oh, yeah, we're going to that diner. We just looked at each other. I didn't even know what he was going to say, but I looked at him and he looked at me, and I knew when he looked at me, it's like, okay, we're going to Don's Ice Cream in Reedsford. We're going. Yeah, we're going. So Ryan's like, well, I'm going to get some apple pie and ice cream, and I'm going to get whatever. And I'm just like, oh, my God, Don's is going to be so – because Don's had really good ranch, too. So if a place has good ice cream and ranch, like, sign me up, man. So yeah, we're going. So then Ryan's like, okay, well, I want Josh to come. So I was like, well, I want him to come too, but he's been kind of a Mr. Krabby Pants all day. I just remember he was in a bad mood all day that day, and I don't know why. I don't remember why. But it got to the point where Ryan and I were just like, no, you're coming. You're going to come. And Josh's like, no, I'm not coming to Don. Like, I'll go eat somewhere in town, but I'm not going out of town to go eat somewhere. So
is that how he got in the car?
Yes. So you're just like, you look at me, you literally looked at me like, this son of a bitch is getting in that car and we're taking him to Don's. Like, he doesn't know he's going to Don's, but he's going to Don's. So Josh,
terrible.
Josh thinks we're going to a restaurant. And you literally just keep driving through the town and head for the McCullough Bridge.
That's awful.
Josh literally looked like a dog in the back of a car that realized he was going to the vet. He was like, what? what the hell? Where are we going?
It's terrible.
He started panicking. So you're just like, well, you know what? He's already pissed. Like, we're going. So we go to Don's. We're eating at the cafe. We're finally there. It's like 35 minutes later. He's pissed.
I remember you trying to cheer him up.
Oh, he wasn't having any of it.
But you were trying, and he was like, no.
I was telling him, like, okay, we'll buy your food. Like, everything's going to be great. Like, by the time, this whole thing, we're high school kids. This is fun. He was acting like he was 93 years old. So
I was oblivious.
Yeah. So we're going, we go to Don's, and literally the whole time we're eating, he's sulking and pouting in the corner. He's enjoying his ice cream, though. I can see that he's enjoying it, but he definitely looks pissed as he's eating it. Me and you take him home, drop him off. He says he'll never hang out with us again, which was ridiculous because we were probably hanging out the next day.
Probably.
And life went on as usual. But I promise you, Ryan, he still talks about this to this day.
Does he?
Yes.
Okay. Hey,
remember
Josh.
the date?
Josh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
Remember the day those assies kidnapped me and brought me to ice cream? Some people have real problems. His biggest issue is that his two friends at the time wanted to take him to ice cream. You'll never believe what Ryan and Alex wanted to do to me yesterday. They wanted to take me to ice cream and dinner. Can you believe those guys?
He just didn't want to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, wow. What about the time? The time? So we also decided we were going to go to Roseburg, which is an hour away. Why don't you tell us about that, Ryan?
Well, I don't remember it very well. All I remember is we had a group of us, and
there was like
let's just go to Roseburg. I don't know why we wanted to, but I think it's just because we wanted to eat at Denny's.
Well, no, Denny's was in Eugene. Sherry's was in Roseburg.
Oh,
so we didn't have a Sherry's. So I specifically remember you saying like, "Hey, I really want this certain item from Sherry's," and I was like, "Well, Ryan, that's great and everything, but Sherry's is an hour and a half away, bud." And you're just like, "Exactly." The car's gassed up. I'm ready to rock. Get in the car or I'll freaking kidnap you and bring you to Sherry's just like I brought Wag to Don. And I knew you were serious because, you had just pulled that one the day before probably.
No.
Yes, you did. You were kidnapping people left and right. You should have had your picture in the post office, Ryan.
Nah.
Kidnapping people in the big orange truck. So yeah, we went to Sherry's to have freaking eggs and bacon. I don't know what it was, but going somewhere when you're in high school to have breakfast or go do something like that was just so exciting. I don't know what it was. It was amazing. What do you got to say about that, Ryan?
I had a good time driving down there and then hanging out with you guys and going to Sherry's. That was I had a good time. I don't remember it. I can't say a lot. I just remember it was a good time.
You had such a good time that you don't remember it. You don't want to talk about it. You have no feelings about it. At least I know where I stand with you now. How dare you? Hold on. Before we finish this episode, this is completely off topic. One of my favorite memories about you was me and you working at your grandpa's glass shop, and we literally have a deadline. We've got our work order. Ryan's got to make screens. I'm sanding. I'm doing window frames. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm seaming windows so you don't cut your fingers. So instead of doing all this stuff your grandpa wants us to do, I am pretending to be choked by you because you had the force. We would literally pretend like we were Jedis the entire shift at work.
Yeah, we had this one invented, the ultimate Jedi, that no matter what this other person did, he could just reverse it.
I would literally you'd just be like, Jedi block.
It's like the ultimate Jedi where nothing damaged or hurt them. And they could just do anything.
Yeah, I'd be using the Force as hard as I could, like struggling, and then you would just wave your hand in the air, and I would drop like I was getting choked. I pulled that one like 100 times.
It sounds like a fraternity pledge or something.
Yeah, but your grandpa's like, "Oh, how's all the work going? Everything gets done? What the hell? Alex is choking again."
My grandpa was not Mickey Mouse, okay?
What are the guys doing out there? Go make sure you're okay. You got to work pretty hard today. You want some Sizzler?
Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, we're good with this episode. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. My handle on my social media is at Ryan W. Sprague. Alex, yours is?
At VanDollar15. And make sure you follow me on Twitter, boys and girls.
On Twitter. All righty. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next week. Well, we talk about something that we don't know what we're going to talk about right now, but it'll be something fun.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Have a good one. This podcast